Like a serpent, Big Brother's slithering its slimy way across America, spying on us. The NSA spying on us to keep us safe. Homeland Security getting 2,700 tanks and 1.3 billion rounds of ammunition to keep us safe. Safe from what? Most Americans are unaware that our currency is printed by a private corporation that charges interest on every dollar printed to the American people. It is a private corporation known as the Federal Reserve. There are no reserves, and it is not part of our federal government. However, the mainstream controlled media, which is funded by these banking cartels that own the Federal Reserve, international bankers, our greedy politicians are getting paid far too well, far too many kickbacks and pork money to end this system. They are part of the system. They like the system. It pays for them at the detriment of the American people. Yet we spend billions and billions and billions of dollars to fight terrorism, to keep Americans frightened of the boogeyman. You must research the United Nations, Agenda 21, globalization, which is just a front for world government, the propaganda that the world cannot survive without us all being a global community. This is all designed to enslave us. In their own writings, Rio Summit and now the Rio Plus 20, we've come to understand that they are building up India and China while de-industrializing the West, namely the United States. Maurice Strong is behind this, and all the other oligarchs are complicit because they will be the ones at the top of the food chain and the pyramid. And we will be relegated to neo-feudal serfdom. The Federal Reserve's purpose is to devalue the dollar, the United States dollar, steal the wealth of the American people, and purchase real resources, gold, land, things of that nature, with the monies that they make and take from us. Every dollar that the IRS collects goes to pay interest on our debt. That came out in 1981 when our debt was far less, through the Grace Commission report. It is truly a plot to steal the wealth of the American people, and people that are involved in this, the traitors involved in this, are politicians. Every president that we've had since Kennedy is complicit or has yielded to the powers of the Fed, not once except for, again, Ron Paul, Larry P. McDonald, who spoke out against the Federal Reserve until recently. Now it's becoming more of a problem, as we cannot continue to print $85 billion. By the way, every time we print this $85 billion, this stimulus money, the Federal Reserve Corporation is making interest on every dollar we print. So they'll print it until the whole system explodes. And meanwhile, they've taken all this wealth, purchasing real resources, gold, silver, all the hard assets, quote unquote, leaving us with worthless paper and debt. Ultimately, this is going to result in the failure of our dollar, and hard for the brainwashed sheep to believe, but yes, a loaf of bread can cost $8-10. A gallon of gas, $20. It can happen. In fact, we're on the road to it. Do not be misled. There is a tremendous conspiracy to bring in a one world government, one world currency, one world religion, all on the hush-hush. And it's been going on, and it's verifiable, and you can catch all the players. They're all involved in putting the protocols in place to bring it all about. Common Core education in the schools, spying on the parents, parents not being able to teach their children what their beliefs are, state mandates, Obamacare, collectivization of the resources of the farms, agriculture through fraud with the FDA and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, going after raw milk farms, saying they're dangerous. Meanwhile, they put poisons out on the market that they call pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, I can go on and on and on. It's real. Now, my friend Tim Vorder of the Protection Group wrote a tremendous article. Many articles. In fact, I'm going to give a good plug out to him, protectiongroup.org. His organization is fantastic in getting the truth out and the information, links, and verifications to the information we all need to know so that we can make informed decisions and not be enslaved by those that wish to enslave us, take everything from us, and then they'll give us, again, this is going back to feudal, it's like neo-feudalism is the plan. The big bankers, the oligarchs, all the people in control of all the big corporations have basically a humanity of slaves that they pay, and at different levels. At the lower levels, the masses at the lower levels will just be awarded, meager amounts of money to do their work, and the state will give them everything else that they need, and they think they'll be happy as hell because the state will give them a cell phone, give them food stamps, give them Section 8 housing. You see, this is the plot, and it's working. These liberals, right? They call them liberals. Like, did you ever? Why would I mean, it's unbelievable. People don't see the deception. Why would the Rockefeller Foundation be funding Planned Parenthood, for example, and funding all of the black neighborhoods and all these programs? Oh, they're helping black communities. They're helping the underprivileged. Really? Are they? Does giving somebody something to eat every day and taking care of their needs every day make them a better person? Brings them up the economic ladder? Or does it create a permanent social class, welfare class? That's exactly what it does. We should point out that the Federal Reserve note dollars are recent arrivals. In 1913, America's new central bank, the Federal Reserve, began issuing Federal Reserve notes to join the U.S. government's gold certificates, silver certificates, and United States notes, meaning that a total of 4 currencies would be used in America, in addition to any local banknotes printed. This may seem confusing, but using several different currencies allowed for large-scale, yet at the same time pinpoint economic growth that allowed America to become the most powerful nation in the world. The gold certificates were printed by the U.S. government and backed by gold. This ended in 1933, when private ownership of gold was banned. Silver certificates were printed by the U.S. government and backed by silver, and that ended in 1963. Now again, we're going back to the truth. They killed Kennedy. The banking forces, the industrialists, he was a threat to the New World Order, to what they wanted to achieve. He knew about their secret societies. He knew about their plots. He uncovered their plots, and he intended to tell the American people, which actually would have woke them up. I mean, they really would have looked at the world a little differently. People were aware again of what was going on. But when they killed Kennedy, and you see the connections with the CIA and the NSA, and you see how all these hands are all tied, the spider web of evil is all tied together, you can see that Executive Order 11110, which was written by JFK only 6 months before he was killed, issued 32 billion silver certificates that was printed by the U.S. government, and as soon as he was assassinated, they never printed any more. Johnson never printed another one, not any other president since. All the object of his putting the silver certificates was to, again, go against ease us out of the Federal Reserve System, which was a silly system to begin with. Charles Lindbergh I was a big opponent of the Federal Reserve when it first came about, and the whole system. That's Charles Lindbergh's father, the famous Charles Lindbergh, the aviator's father, and many people fought against it that never get any time in history. people like Louis T. McFadden. Anyhow, these banknotes, which were then United States notes, were printed by the U.S. government to match economic growth. And that, of course, ended in 1982. Now, the Federal Reserve notes, that's the ones that we all have today, are continuing. So what these criminals have done was, over the course of what it would be 100 years, and it happened much sooner because it was in 1982 when they stopped printing them. By 1980, it took them 69 years to get rid of pretty much all the other dollars in circulation except for Federal Reserve notes. And that's all we have now, debt-based currency. And I don't care what anyone says, wake up. I don't care what they tell you on television. I don't care what you're going to hear about, how we have to stay to this thing. We need to get back to a gold standard and have currencies for local areas. Now, what was interesting, that this is how it worked, and I'm again going back to Tim's excellent article, and please go to protectiongroup.org. United States notes, okay, are identical to Federal Reserve notes, except the United States notes have red serial numbers, and the U.S. government gets the United States notes free when they're printed instead of Federal Reserve banks. So we, have, of course, can just wipe out this whole system that's costing us so much money anytime. Now, having local currencies like all they used to have, and they're starting to do this in some states, are already putting out their own currency and backed by gold and silver to try to deal with this problem. But these bankers are cruel and evil, and they start wars, and they'll knock you off for anything. This has been going on. I mean, where do you think all the money comes to fund all of these criminal operations that exist in the world? Think about it. Wells Fargo and Wachovia busted for caught laundering $379 billion of drug money, almost $500 billion of drug money. And instead of taking all their assets, as they should have, and paid down our national debt, nope, they got slapped on the wrist, paid a fine of $200 million after they had laundered $379 billion. They're criminals. We have to expose them and just stop listening to the news, stop listening to what the lies are. They're all working for the bankers. It's very simple to figure out. Once you see the connections, once you see it's all the same players, once you see what they never talk about, what you see is when they're hit with tough questions, they deflect. Once you see the way that they cannot answer, because the truth is they've stolen the wealth of the American people. It's undeniable. $1's worth a nickel, 2 cents. What else can I say? What else can I say? If we have state currencies and one state is corrupt and another local area is corrupt, then those areas deal with their corruption and they have their problems, and it doesn't affect the next community. That's how this country became wealthy. So that all our eggs are not in one basket. So the whole country doesn't have to go down because 10 states are bad or 10 cities are going bankrupt. What about Gibson Guitars, who had their wood confiscated by the feds because they violated a law in India? We're already subjecting American companies to foreign laws, domestic companies to foreign laws, and enforcing them here. Gibson paid $300,000 in penalties and forfeited claims to about $262,000 worth of wood seized by federal agents, and they were forced to contribute $50,000 to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to promote the conservation of protected tree species. Apparently, if you chop down the trees in India and produce the guitars in India, there's no problem. The law in India states that you can make the guitars in India, but you cannot take the wood from India and render the guitars elsewhere. Welcome to the New World Order.
We have the nuclear problem in Korea, we have the nuclear problem in Iran. Of course, the whole array of problems, each of which in Afghanistan. But then we have the financial issues. But they really are issues of the construction of a new world order. That's what this is about.